Welcome, traders. In this video, we're going to go over the setup of the new ZoneTraderPro Price Patterns software. And what you're seeing is the Bloodhound version from yesterday, Friday, June 21st. And this is the reason that I really wanted to see the Bloodhound version, because now you can go and accurately see how a trading idea works. Now, I've gone here and created a basic trading idea that just said, if I have a pattern and I have order flow, show me a trade. And as you can see, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trades that fit that pattern, and all 8 were winners. So it was a very profitable day for the patterns with order flow. I'm going to be doing a special video on integrating Bloodhound itself, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to go over the settings in the Bloodhound version, because they're the same as the settings in the regular version. The difference between the two is only that the Bloodhound version has the values exposed so that Bloodhound can work. All of the ZoneTraderPro lifetime license customers will be able to upgrade to this new version, but without the Bloodhound signals, for free. If you'd like to purchase the Bloodhound version, come to the lifetime license screen and you'll see the Bloodhound upgrade here for $395. The reason that this is an upgrade is that the script that you're seeing on the chart cost almost $5,000, and it was done because of numerous people asking for the ability to use Bloodhound. So if you are interested in using Bloodhound, as I said, there's going to be a second video about how useful it is in this testing process. You can contact me for more information or upgrade from the lifetime license screen. Besides this video, I have also updated the trading manual, and to get to the trading manual, you go to the main support page, and here is the trading manual page, and over here you can see that we have the new trading manual available. The biggest difference between the new software and the old software is that I'm now identifying things such as strong trends that were not available before. And for those customers that have trained with me to identify the strong trends, the broken reversals, and other trades, you'll understand how important it is to have all of the signals now onto one chart so that you don't have to recognize them without a pattern being displayed. Now you're going to see things like the counter trend trade, the strong trend trade. You're also going to see warnings. As price traded through the counter trend zone here, I was displaying a warning here that said strong trend, so that you were aware not to take any counter trend short trades, which would have very poor risk reward. One of the other differences in the new version is your ability to be able to customize the presets for when you see a pattern and do not see a pattern. This was necessary because the original script had values that were hard-coded into the script, and when we went to using a larger zigzag on this chart, which is set to 10 ticks or a deviation value of 2.5, some of those values just didn't really work correctly. So let's go over the indicators. And the first thing we look at is this plot tick numbers, and tick wiggle room of 100, and down here we have a section for plot size, up color, down color, and arrow. Now, what these are referring to is the $ tick being plotted on the chart. And the $ tick isn't necessary to be plotted on the chart anymore. This was an idea created probably 10 or 12 years ago, before I had any of the filters that are now available to us. It was a very good idea, but we now have more useful tools. However, I did still keep it because I like to personally see it. Now, in order to get this, you're most likely going to have to subscribe to Kinetic, which will cost you, I think, about $70, $75. So unless you're 100% positively sure that you have a live real-time feed for the $ tick, you should be turning this off. So what we want to do, if you do not have it, you want to unclick the plot tick numbers, and we also want to untick the tick divergence trade, because we don't want to see a delayed number come up, which is what will happen, and give you a false trading signal. So again, very important, unless you're 100% sure that you're receiving a live number, uncheck the number in tick divergence and uncheck the number in plot tick numbers. The tick wiggle room has to do with the tick filter itself. So it's set for 100. So let's take a quick look at what that means. On the chart here, we see a blue up arrow. On the chart here, we see a red down arrow. Same for over here, a red down arrow. And what that is saying is we are looking at the previous low tick here of negative 404. And that negative 404 occurred anywhere, could have occurred anywhere in this downward leg. The arrow is saying that negative 404 was exceeded by at least 100, and that's the tick wiggle room number. The negative 404 was exceeded by at least 100 on this bar. Where this bar is blue, what this is saying is that on this bar we were at least 100 above the 375. So that's a very quick explanation of the tick divergence and the tick wiggle room. So the next thing we see is we're going to have the settings for all of our trades. And the first trade is our trend trade. So we've gone ahead and enabled it. And this is where some of the customizations come in to this. And so I have put the values here that I like to use. So let's take a look at each one of these values. I put distance from counter 3, distance from intermediate 2, and a very important setting, warning line from intermediate at 5. Okay, and up here, this is what is setting the zigzag. We're telling it to zigzag at 10 ticks. So with these numbers are valid for a 10-tick zigzag. And you can change these and customize these any way you'd like, and that's kind of the reason why I changed the ideas and allowed this customization for the users of ZoneTrader Pro. So let's take a look at what each one of these three things mean. So here we have a trend trade right here, and when I say distance from counter, that is the first thing that has to happen in order to set up a trend trade. So in this instance, price had traded to 29.61, and the bottom of the blue counter trend zone was at 61.50. So this came within 2 ticks of the blue counter trend zone. So that's what that first value is saying. I have the value set at 3 because of the larger zigzags, so price only had to trade to 29.60.75 in order to initiate a trading pattern. The second value was distance from intermediate. So distance from intermediate is basically saying when I'm going to get a trading signal. So I've set distance from intermediate to 2. So at this point right here, we begin to receive a trading signal. And we trade down 1 tick, and then on this bar we actually trade down 2 ticks. And that's where the trend trade arrow is going to stop printing. It's made to stop printing when we touch the intermediate zone on this bar right here. Now the third setting is very important, and it's important for both Bloodhound and the settings of the reversal trade pattern. So in this instance, we have 4 ticks of adverse excursion. Those 4 ticks of adverse excursion are measured from the beginning of the zone here at 29.57.50. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the reason that this is important is that for the Bloodhound version, you would be receiving a signal to get you out of the trade where the warning line from intermediate value is set at. And this one came 4 ticks through, so we weren't stopped out from this trade. But more importantly, what it's doing is it's setting a value for the reversal trading pattern right here. So if I go and change this to a 4 here, what I'm going to get is I'm going to be getting a reversal trade here now because we've come 4 ticks through the zone. And the reason that Bloodhound isn't showing this is because in Bloodhound we have to go and we have to set all of these values exactly the way our values are set in the indicator. And my indicator for the Bloodhound is set for 5 to match what is in my indicator. So let's change that back to a 5, and you're going to see the reversal trade go away. This is the only time in the non-Bloodhound version that warning line from intermediate is going to make a difference. In the non-Bloodhound version, all of the other warning line intermediates settings apply only to the Bloodhound version. This is the one warning line that applies to the regular non-Bloodhound version. The second trade we look at now is going to be the exhaustion trade. So again, we enable the trade and we only have one setting in the non-Bloodhound version, which would be distance from minor. So in this version, we can see that we have an exhaustion trade here. The distance from minor is referring to how far through this minor zone do we allow price to go before we do not have an exhaustion trade here and we have a counter trend trade. So again, this is an important setting, and in the old version the math was done for us. So in this version, price had only came 1 tick through the minor zone, setting us up for this exhaustion trade. If we change that value to a 0, we lose the exhaustion signal down here. The next signal we have is the counter trend trade, and again I've gone ahead and put this on the chart so that you're aware of the counter trend trade. I'm not suggesting that you normally take these as a trade. You need to consider the risk reward to this trade, and in most cases the risk reward isn't appropriate. However, if you do your research, you may find that in certain cases it is appropriate for you to take the trade. So for the counter trend trade, again, we have the enable and disenable. We have distance from intermediate and distance from counter. In the counter trend trade, the distance from intermediate refers to this back here. So we had to come within 2 ticks of that value, which we did, in order to have a counter trend, valid counter trend trade right there. The distance from counter being set at 3 means that we're going to be receiving the trade signal when we are 3 ticks from the beginning of this zone back here. So if we went and changed the distance from intermediate to a 0, then we are not going to be receiving a counter trend signal down here. That distance from intermediate is only applying to right there. The next value we have is the reversal trade, and in the reversal trade there's only the enable and distance from intermediate setting, which is set to a 4. While making this video, I realized that the value from distance from intermediate was set too high at a 4. It should be at a 2, because that's when we will start receiving the reversal trade signal. So if you have copied down the previous settings, be sure to adjust this down to a 2. And again, as we stated, the warning line from intermediate is only going to apply to the Bloodhound version. For the tick divergence trade, if it is enabled because you are receiving the data, then there is only one setting, and that is the distance from the counter trend zone. And that is simply saying where you will start receiving the signal. So you will start receiving the signal 3 ticks from where the beginning of the zone starts. In this case, you can see that the label turned red, and as in the previous version of the software, after receiving a valid signal on this bar, we received a non-divergence signal when the tick traded higher on this bar, and that's what turned the label red. The black label that you see back here is still tick divergent, even though price had traded 6 or 7 ticks through the blue counter trend zone. But the red label here is telling us on that bar the tick became non-divergent. The next trade we have is the strong trend reversal, and I'm going to change the values from distance from counter start and distance from counter end. I'm going to change those both to a 3 and enable the warning of the label to appear. So what that means is in a strong trend reversal, we go from a blue zone to a blue zone. And because we can have as many as 7 or 8 points at a minimum between these two values, that's why I've opened it up just a little and said put the value of 3 in there. So what 3 means is that the distance from counter start, in order to have a valid strong trend reversal, is price needs to trade within 3 ticks of this zone right here, this counter trend zone right here. As price traded through, you would get the strong trend reversal warning, letting you know please don't be taking any counter trend short trades because we don't know where this is going to stop. And then the distance from counter end indicator just says how close we want to get to this counter trend area right here to have a valid pattern. By putting a 3 in there, we're saying that price can trade within 3 ticks of this zone. We're going to get a signal as soon as we have a zigzag, so we're going to begin to get a signal right here, and that signal is going to stop when price trades through the minor area or touches the minor area of support right here. The next pattern is a strong trend, and there really is only the setting to enable it and to enable the warning. So that one's not very tough. So let's take a look at the broken reversal settings. For the broken reversal settings, we have distance from intermediate start, distance from intermediate end, and enable. So what distance from intermediate start is saying is that how close did we come to this zone right here? And in a broken reversal, what we have is we have some kind of strong trend. And in this case, we have a strong trend reversal. The definition being, of course, that we trade from a blue zone to a blue zone. If price was reacting normally, which it first did right here, we got this 2-point reaction, but then price continued to trade higher. So because price didn't react at the minor area of resistance here, something is broken. Hence, that leads us to the broken reversal trade. Now, the first thing that has to happen is we need to trade within 3 ticks of this intermediate zone right here. And then the second thing that has to happen is we're saying that at 3 ticks, and you can see this with the bloodhound, at 3 ticks we are now being given the broken reversal trading signal, and the broken reversal trading signal stops when price touches the intermediate zone here. So the 2 settings, 3 from the start right here, and the 3 represents when you're going to start receiving a signal right here. The next setting again is applying to the tick filter, and if you enable it, you can enable a sound file so that you can be aware of when it's happening. And there really isn't much down here that we're going to have to worry about. Everything else down here, these plots, they all apply to the bloodhound version, so you're not going to have to be making any changes there. And basically that's going to wrap up this video on the new ZoneTraderPro Price Patterns software. There will be a specific video on the setup of the bloodhound indicator coming out this week, so be sure to look for that. Thanks for watching and have a good day.